Hello and welcome. This is called Food Goes in Here, Comes Out There. If you put too much in, it gets stuck in the middle. And that's the title of the video because very simply, that's the extent of my nutrition knowledge. I'm a psychologist. This is me as a psychologist using MI to pretend to be a nutritionist. But let's think about this. If you're a nutritionist or somebody in a healthcare setting or a performance setting and you want to enhance somebody's performance, the way I've gone about this conversation is probably going to be beneficial to you using the techniques of motivational interviewing. During it, you should look out for elements which contribute to me showing partnership, acceptance, compassion, and evocation, which is the spirit of MI or the philosophy of MI. You should look out also for me using open questions, affirmations, reflections, and summaries, which are the micro skills of MI. And as well as that, the strategy with which we process through a conversation is engage, focus, evoke, and plan. And you'll see that I jump around in between that. Halfway through, I'm like, do I need to go back to the start and see what else we can get out of this? So this was actually quite challenging for me. And the case that Jody brought was quite difficult as well. Jody is obviously the nutritionist. She's much more experienced than me, and you should go and check out Jody. Her link is below in this video, so go check her out if you're in need of any nutrition support. But in terms of MI, if you want to get more information about MI or learn more about it, get in touch with me. I train people once a year, and the places are very limited because of that. Hopefully this is of benefit to you, and without further ado, here you are. Hi Jody, how are you and what do you want to work on today?
Hi, yeah, I'm good, thank you. I don't think that there's anything specific that I necessarily want to work on. Obviously, we've been given this kind of time and schedule to come in and spend a bit of time with you this morning, and so that's what I'm here for.
Okay, so you're just here to explore, and you currently feel as if all your nutrition needs are squared away and perfect?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I play in the kind of first team squad, and I'm pretty happy with kind of what I do. I never have had any problems or anything. So.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Well, in that regards, like I'd love to hear like how you're doing this, because getting nutrition on top, getting on top of it is a really difficult skill. What is it you do so well that's has this perfectly achieved?
I don't know. I just think it's the amount of time that I've been playing, and I think that there's a certain amount of it that, like, I think you just get used to the way your body feels, like in a game. And when you've got the amount of experience that I have, like, I've been playing this game now for like over like 10 years, and I'm kind of, regularly getting selected. So like like I said, I don't think that there's like necessarily an issue there.
Yeah, so you're massively experienced and you've got no issues with nutrition at all. So what did you learn about nutrition over your career? What has given you all this confidence and knowledge about how to fuel your body appropriately?
I think like just being in various different setups, and obviously you're not the first nutritionist that I've ever met. So like I've been exposed to this for the last kind of few years, spoken to one or two nutritionists, but also like loads of stuff on, social media and whatnot. It's not exactly kind of, difficult to come by.
Okay, so you get a lot of information by social media, and then you're also, experienced from your interactions with other nutritionists over the years.
Yeah.
Okay, so if everything's going well, what does your typical day look like in terms of nutritional intake look like?
Well, I'll start the day with some breakfast sometimes, depending on how I feel. And then, like, obviously with the training day, we'll come in the morning, we'll do a session, and then we'll have lunch provided for us at the training facility. So depending on how I'm feeling, like I'll have something or not, but it depends on whether we've got another session in the day. Like, so I like to feel light when I train.
Okay.
I don't like to go out, like on the field or in the gym feeling heavy. So I'll just kind of eat to how I'm feeling, and then obviously do my session, and then like in the afternoon I'll go home, maybe walk the dog, and then like evening meal, which I have with my partner, and then like off to bed, normally in bed by about 11.
Okay, so just to clarify for me, when you say breakfast, like what actually is on the plate?
It just depends. Like, you know what it's like. Sometimes you'll feel like a little bit more hungry, so you'd have more, or, you know, some days you fancy something warm. So it might be like scrambled eggs on toast, or it might be a bowl of porridge. In the winter, it's normally like porridge, because that's just like, that's just what like I always have. Like, so when it gets to like autumn and winter, like I'll always just have a bowl of porridge. And then just whatever else is there if I fancy it, I guess.
Okay, so scrambled eggs and toast and porridge is the two main ones there. And then when you get your lunch provided for you, and you said you like to feel light, can you tell me more about that? How does the lunch help you feel light?
Well, like, it's just about kind of like steering clear of carbs at lunchtime, typically, just because I don't like the way that it kind of makes me feel. It does make me feel a little bit heavier, so I tend to kind of steer clear of carbs in the lunchtime feed, and then I'll make up for that like later in the day though. So I'll have like a carbohydrate snack, like a couple of pieces of toast when I get home, you know, before I take the dog out for a walk. And then
okay, you know, carbs, what does that mean? It means different things to different people. What do you mean by carbs? What is a carb, and what is the foods that contain them?
You know, like bread, rice, potatoes, rice, those kinds of things.
Right. And what about, you know, jelly babies? Would they be a carb?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I share a concern with you?
Yeah, of course.
So one of the things that is really interesting about, from, you know, a training perspective, is you need to have the fuel to train hard, to push your body into a state of stress so that it can adapt. And if it's properly fueled, you're more able to do that. And then if you can, you know, create that stimulus, your body will respond and you'll grow and improve. But if you're maybe skipping out on having those carbs, that that might mean that it sort of blunts your training a bit. But then the other thing is, like, you like to feel light, and I'm just curious, is there a different carb source that you can eat during lunch that might allow you to, you know, have more energy, not feel heavy, and be well fueled for lunch? What are your thoughts on all of that anyway?
I think that's like, I mean, that's that's obviously what we've been told, and that's kind of like not kind of news to me, I guess. But I think that I've never really felt like that tired in training. So like, I think that I must be kind of meeting my requirements, you know, that are needed, because I've never really had any issues in terms of, you know, tiredness in training or anything like that. So like, I understand the you know, the basic knowledge of, yes, we need fuel as, you know, as an athlete. I totally understand that. And I'm not saying that I avoid carbohydrates. I'm just saying that I don't have them necessarily at my lunchtime meal if there's an additional training session in the day. If there's not a training session, then, you know, I will have some carbohydrates on my plate at lunchtime. But it's if we've got a session after lunch, that's when I tend to.
So I mean, there's another thing there that's just dawned on me. Like, it must take a lot of energy to do 2 training sessions. That's obviously a big thing.
Yeah, well, it depends on the type of training. Like, if we're doing 2 sessions, it's unlikely that we'll go all out in both. So like, I suppose it just depends on the manager and what they feel, and the coach, and, you know, what they want to do.
Yeah. So you do 2 training sessions, but you don't put in a lot of effort over both of them?
I wouldn't say that I don't put in a lot of effort. I just, like, it's just how the style of the session is.
Okay. And is that a case that the coaches sort of say, like, these are only half effort sessions, or are they expecting you to push through it both sessions?
No, I think that, like, that they're expecting us to kind of push through both sessions. But when you've got 2 sessions in a day, like, you're thinking of injuries, you're thinking of like what could happen out there. So it doesn't matter. Like, if the gaffer says that we need to go like full tilt, I don't think he would say that, because obviously he's aware of like the injury risk and everything else. So
Yeah.
I think it's like one will be slightly more intense than the other, for example.
And I suppose you've picked up a lot of information about how nutrition can benefit injury reduction over the years.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's like, you know, I know that people have spoken about that, but like it's never really affected me.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I've never had like, you know, touch wood, but I've never had a serious injury. I've never really had any twinges.
Okay, you're a very robust player.
Yeah.
Okay. So what part does nutrition play for that? Play into that robustness for you? Like, surely you must be doing something very right, because you've said you've been doing stuff really right and your nutrition is really on point. So, like, what is it you do with your nutrition that makes it so on point to help you be robust?
I think that it's just probably just making sure that I kind of like have some fuel before a game. So I'll always make sure that, like, you know, the day before a game, like in my evening meal, I'll, you know, like have quite a bit more carbohydrate than I ordinarily would, to help fuel for the next day. And then like game day is a little bit different though, because you've got the anxiety of, you know, it can be a little bit nerve-wracking on the day of the game. So like, and again, like to feel light, I like to compete light. So it's not often that like I'll have a lot on kind of match day. But like the day after a game, like I do tend to have like 3 square meals in a day.
Why do you have that the day after a game?
Like there's a little bit of like celebration. Like, do you know, like if we've just we've like had a good result, then that's that. If we haven't performed so well, there's probably a little bit of like
commiseration, celebration.
Yeah, a little bit of comfort food, like, I think.
Okay. I'm a little bit confused, because I know you've got it together, and you've got all this experience, but you've talked about how you like make sure you're fueled for a game. Yeah, on a training session, when you've got 2 practices a day, you don't fuel for the second training session. And I don't know.
Well, like it's a different environment, isn't it? So like training for a game, you know that like that game will contribute to where you finish overall in the league. So like every game is important, you know? So when we're looking at like training, it's just your kind of day to day.
Yeah, so training is not really important at all.
I wouldn't say that it's not really important at all, but I think that there's a greater emphasis. Like if you were to speak to the gaffer, like, and say, you know, would you rather have a performance on a game day or a performance on the training pitch? Like, I'm pretty sure that they'd probably say on game day.
Yeah. But is it an either or? I mean, what's the benefit to having a 2-a-day training then, if it's not important enough for you to fuel?
Well, this is something that me and some of the players have been saying. You know, like, so that like there's sometimes where they'll do like a 2-day training session, and me and all the other players are like, what, like, why are we doing this? Like, because we've just come off the back of a game or whatever it might be. But obviously, like, whatever is required, we're going to do. So, you know, that's fine. But I don't understand the whys and wheres. I mean, I am just a player. So
yeah,
whatever's on the schedule, I'll do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, can I sort of make a suggestion?
Yeah.
So I would say that you might find, if you fuel before your second training with something that doesn't make you feel heavy, you might find that your second training session is actually a lot more productive and a lot more beneficial. Have you any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, yeah, I could probably see where that would kind of make sense. You know, and I don't really have anything against it, other than I know that it's not what I normally do. So I don't know how engaged I'd be in kind of doing that, because it's not what I do. It's not what I'm used to. So I don't like. I also like to have things, quite structured. So like I know what's, I know what I have for breakfast. Like when I go into the dining hall at lunch, I know kind of what's there. I know what's coming in the day, so I can I choose to what makes me feel better, and then so I don't know how I'd kind of go about that really, because it's not something that I normally do.
Yeah. I'm curious. You just said you choose what makes you feel better. Can you tell me more about that? How your food links into making you feel better? What do you mean by that?
Well, like just feeling confident.
Mm-hmm.
Like feeling confident, when I go out onto the field, I like to know that I'm feeling light and, I can travel quickly and I'm not going to have any kind of issues with that. Because that's something that's happened to me previously. And I'm not that's never happening again.
What happened?
So I had a larger lunch than normal. I suppose I was feeling quite hungry, so I had a load of rice and pasta, and then went out onto the field, and I just couldn't move. I just felt so heavy and so bloated, and I just did I didn't perform at my best. I got pulled in to the coach's office, and they were just what happened out there today? It was that much of a strange performance.
Yeah.
That we're just even in training, what happened. So
interrogation.
Yeah, pretty much. So since then I was okay, well, that was the only thing that was really different about my day. So the next day, I opted for food that would make me feel better. So that's what I mean by that. That got me back to feeling how I like to feel, which is light and quick, and find it easy to move out on the field. And since then I haven't been pulled into the office, and nobody's really had any concerns about my performance. So
yeah, well, it sounds as if you learned quite a bit from that experience. Have you ever had an eating disorder?
No, never had an eating disorder.
Okay. It seems to be very interesting that you're using food for confidence, and also that you're saying that your food can make you feel light and quick. That's quite interesting, because you're going by how you feel, and maybe it's driven off this negative experience that you've had from having one bad game where you ate too much rice or carbs, and that wasn't good for you for that performance. It seems to be that you're chasing this light and quick. What type of foods do you eat to achieve that?
So mainly salmon and chicken and vegetables. So broccoli and salads and just the normal stuff really.
And in terms of calorie intake, what sort of calorie intake would you have over a day? What's an ideal amount?
Oh, no idea. No idea.
Right. Okay. So does your weight stay stable throughout the season, or does it fluctuate?
It tends to stay pretty stable. Yeah, I'd say so. Over the last kind of few months, pretty stable.
Okay, so you don't know what you eat on a daily basis, but your weight stays stable.
Yeah, I think it's just because I eat to my hunger, and I don't kind of overly consume. So, I know when I'm full.
Okay, so you've got some really good self-awareness when it comes to eating.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So if I'm thinking about this right, your nutrition is pretty much on point. The thing that is interesting is that you treat the fuel before a game different from the second training.
Yeah.
You're not willing to change that or experiment with that to see, does it make the second training session better?
Well, I've done it though, haven't I? and it didn't go so well. So so like, unless there's a way of kind of doing it, you know, without food, then, you know, I've kind of been there, done that, didn't really have a good time of it.
Okay, so you've tried it with rice and pasta, was it?
Yeah.
Before a competition, or before competition, yeah?
No, before a training session.
Okay.
But it was a tough training session. Yeah. So like that's why everybody was like, oh, you know, we've been told we need to like have more fuel before the session in the afternoon. And I was actually feeling hungry, so it wasn't a problem. So I just kind of was like, yeah, okay.
And cool. How soon before the training session did you consume all this rice and pasta?
Probably about, I don't know what, 20 minutes.
Okay, right. And is that
the training schedule? They only gave us half an hour for lunch, and then it was like straight back out onto the field. So.
Yeah. So I'm curious then, it's like you've got half an hour for lunch and then straight back out, and you're putting in all this rice and pasta, and then you felt sluggish. But if you were preparing for a game, when would you eat before a game? And what would you eat?
Oh, it'd be like the night before. So it'd be like a spaghetti bolognese, or like, I don't know, like a lasagna or something like that, or like chili con carne, something like that.
Yeah. And what about, like, you know, in maybe 2 hours before a game, would you eat anything 2 hours?
No.
3 hours before a game?
No.
Okay.
It depends on like when kickoff was. Like if we have like a midday kickoff, then, you know, I'll probably have a coffee in the morning.
Okay.
But that's fine, because we finish at like, you know, we'd be finished in the afternoon, and I'll be able to have something to eat later.
I'm just curious, you've got a lot of information about, you know, carbohydrates, and you know, I know you get a lot of information from the internet. You've been around a lot of nutritionists. What do you know about the difference between quick release and slow release carbohydrates?
Oh man. Yeah, so your slow release is like, it takes longer to get into your system, and like your quick release like gets into your system a lot quicker.
Okay. And what sort of foods do those be in? I can nearly
like your slow release are going to be like your brown breads and brown rice and brown pastas and things like lentils and things. And then your like quick release is going to be like white bread, white pasta, white spaghetti, and jelly babies.
Yeah. Okay. In terms of, like, you know, I'm putting these into two big groups of quick and slow, like a whole spectrum, as opposed to just this group and this group.
Really? Do you think?
Yeah, I'd imagine so. I mean, if you've got something here that's quick release, there's going to be something slightly quicker and something slightly less quick, and then there's really slow release over here, and it's a bit of a spectrum, you know.
Right.
I'm just curious, what about fruit? Where does that sit in this spectrum?
I mean, I eat fruit, like I eat berries and stuff. But I don't go overly mad for fruit. I don't think I'm a very fruity person.
Okay.
I think like I'm much more savory, I guess.
Right.
But like, I'm not against fruit. I've got nothing against it. I'll have my berries and my yogurt and stuff. Like, but I won't necessarily, you know, you're not going to find me with a punnet of blueberries in my training bag.
Yeah. Okay. So if you've got all these slow release, quick release, and it's on a spectrum.
Yeah.
Curious, is there anything that you think would be quick release that you could have in that half-hour break before you go back out for your training session, as opposed to something that'll give you carbohydrates, but not like a big lump of rice or pasta, but something quick and light?
I don't know. Maybe, I don't know, like a jam sandwich or something.
Maybe. I mean, that might be something that might be useful. Is it something you've tried before?
No, it was just one of the girls actually had a jam sandwich, like in a kit. That's where that came from, because I was like, I remember seeing one of the other girls have that, and I was like, weird.
Right. Okay.
Each to their own. Like,
You play badly?
hey?
She played badly after a
No,
jam.
she had a stormer. She's best player on the pitch.
That's interesting. Must be something in that jam sandwich.
I don't know, maybe I'll ask her what kind of bread she's using.
Yeah. Even better, what you should maybe do, far be it for me to tell you what to do, because you're your own person, but maybe you should go and steal her jam sandwich.
Yeah, maybe. That might work.
Okay. Because she played bad and you play well, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. You know, if we're putting all the emphasis on that, then, you know, yeah, I could be swayed maybe.
Okay. Well, look, I'm gonna just recap. We've been talking for a bit, and like what you've said is you've got all this experience. You're massively experienced in what you do. You've got loads of information from the internet, from past exposure to nutrition. You feel as if your nutrition's all down and you've got it all squared away, but you've kind of highlighted how, you know, you're not fueling before your second training. You've highlighted how maybe after games you maybe have commiseration fueling. And I'm curious about how that impacts recovery. And yeah, I'm just curious, like if I was going to be the world's best nutritionist for you, what would I do for you that it would just give you that 1% more?
I don't know, maybe make me a jam sandwich.
Okay. Is there anything else? I mean, I can make you a jam sandwich, but that's
I mean, I don't know. I think like that's interesting to kind of hear you kind of lay it out like that. And I think that, you know, just thinking back to your suggestion around, you know, fueling, you know, for that second session in the day, maybe some ideas, you know, if you like that maybe aren't rice or pasta. Yeah. Like just things that are quick that I could put like in my bag that wouldn't be like a big thing and maybe wouldn't require me to have, you know, like the usual, I mean, you know, the carbohydrates that they serve like in the canteen and stuff, like maybe, you know, it is something that I could look at like bringing with me in my kit bag. So rather than having it, you know, at lunch, I could maybe have it before I go into the canteen and then give it a little bit of time to digest, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. And is that when you say a bit of time to digest, like you're talking about the timing of the food there as well? Is that something that's important to you?
Yeah, well, only because like we're on such a tight schedule. It's like we're in the eating area for like half an hour, 20 minutes max. By the time you've got up there, queued, got your food, sat down, grabbed a drink, like eaten it, you've got maybe 7 minutes to go downstairs, like get yourself sorted before we're then back out onto the field. So like it's a little bit rushed to like have something to eat.
This is not ideal.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, it's nearly as if like, you know, if you had something there ready to go straight after training, it would save you at least 7 minutes.
Yeah. yeah, basically.
Yeah. I wonder, how could you do that? How could you save that 7 minutes if you had something else? What would you do?
I mean, it's like, I don't know, I suppose I could bring my own food in, maybe.
Oh, I mean, so that actually, what you're talking about there is taking that 7 minutes and putting that in the night before to pack a lunch.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that would save the whole queuing and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it does get really busy in there. And there's also no guarantee, you know, that when you get there, what's left is going to be what you want. Because we're always like the last group to go up as well. So like, we're always in the last, So we always get the kind of, not the best probably, which, you know, thinking about it, like might be why, like I don't necessarily eat a lot at the time as well. So yeah, like I still want to feel light and stuff, but sometimes it is like you get what's left. So I guess if, you know, I made something for myself, then as soon as we finish the one session, like I could just eat, you know, I could still eat in the canteen with the girls and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but I wouldn't have to like queue and whatever else. So
Yeah. Okay. So how important is it for you out of 10 to fuel for the training in the second training session? And how important is it for you to have a good second training session?
yeah, I mean, it is. It's really important, isn't it? Because that's, you know, that's kind of selection, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, it's important.
Out of 10, what, like 10 being very important, 0 being not important, where would you rank it?
Depending on like the week before, like I'd probably say maybe an 8.
Okay. And how confident are you that you could maybe bring something that would be suitable, that wouldn't diminish your performance and might be tasty, nutritious, provide some energy for that second training session? How confident out of 10 are you? 10
Yeah. I mean, I think you know, like I can do it. It's not a problem. Like it's just a lunch, isn't it? And a snack by the sounds of things. And if you were to maybe help me out by sending me a couple of ideas for that snack bit, like I'd find that really helpful. So if I had that information, you know, I'd probably put myself at about an 8, 7 or an 8. Maybe.
I'm curious then, if this is an 8 out of importance and an 8 or a 7 in confidence of you doing this,
Yeah.
why is it an 8 and a 7 and not a 0 for those things?
Because, you know, like it's my job. So like, you know, in terms of importance, like it is important, like it's my job and I love what I do. And in terms of the kind of the how confident I am to do it, you know, like I'm pretty sure I can make a jam sandwich. That doesn't sound too difficult.
Do you know what strikes me is fueling for this second session is important because you love what you do, and it's actually professional responsibility because it's your sport and career. You love this, and actually, if spending 7 minutes making a jam sandwich makes you have a better training session, and you know, why not give it a shot? It doesn't have to be forever. It can just be for an experiment.
That sounds good. So I'm not like tied into a contract of having to do this every day, because I'm telling you now, like some days I just won't be asked.
Yeah, people make mistakes. People have bad days, like, but it's up to you. You get to experiment and live your life how you want. It's your career, not mine.
Well, that sounds pretty decent.
Okay, look, we'll wrap it up there, and what I'll do is I'll send you on some ideas for a snack that might be of use. But in the next sessions, I think it might be really interesting to explore hydration, because there's no mention that, and also this like after training refueling, especially after a game that's gone wrong or a game that's gone bad. It seems to be quite like something going on there, and I think it'd be useful to look at your recovery strategies for nutrition as well.
Yeah, no one's ever spoken to me about that. Like it's always been about like before the game. Like nobody's ever really, no one's ever really ever spoken to me about like after a game, because the game's done. So
yeah, it's time to forget about it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's kind of funny because nobody ever talks about, you know, the importance of sleep. They talk about what you do in your day, but actually sleep, when people do talk about the importance of sleep, that's well, they do. So like, why don't we do that for nutrition? Like, it's not just before the game, it's actually, you know, after the game as well. Same as with, it's not just during the day what you do, it's also after the day what you do is important.
Yeah, that makes sense. Never really thought of it like that, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay, we'll just stop there. Now, I'm going to open up here. So for anybody watching this, obviously I'm not a nutritionist, and Jodie is. Jodie, from a nutritionist standpoint, talk me through, how was that for you? What was absolutely terrible from my fake nutritionist knowledge? What was useful? What would you take away from that might be beneficial from a nutrition standpoint?
Yeah, I think like from a nutrition standpoint, it was interesting because I think the tack that you took, because you obviously didn't have the like the knowledge and the expertise within that realm. But actually, I think that kind of provided you with a bit of a strength, because you weren't able to go into the rabbit hole, you know, and you weren't able to get carried away like with the science of it and telling them, you know, what to do, why it's important, you know, this paper, that paper. Like, it gave you the freedom to be able to like focus on the conversation. And I think that oftentimes, you know, not just myself, like I've had conversation with peers as well, kind of around the conversation piece. And we're kind of solution-driven people, you know, just speaking on behalf of the nutrition profession. But me as an individual, I'm a solution-driven individual. So I want to find out what the problem is and I want to fix it. And that sometimes doesn't kind of work in my favor, because I end up talking really passionately about nutrition. The player probably wouldn't be too fussed about hearing. Do you know what I mean? And I think that sometimes that's what comes out in the conversation.
Yeah. And how is that different from my approach then compared to this solution focused approach?
I think that you were like, I think that the way that you approached it was brilliant in terms of the exploratory questions, and not really, you didn't really let me off the hook. I tried not to let you like put me on the hook, but you did in the end, because like, but that could be a, you know, a reflection of you know, a very real scenario that could play out with an athlete. You know, they sometimes do shut off. Sorry, Hugh. Like, so I think that was really, really excellent. And it certainly made me think in the role play, like, oh wow, like Hugh's not, like, and I know that you haven't got the knowledge to do that, but you were very much like putting it back on me and probing me and asking me, okay, you've said this, but what about that? And that was, you know, that made me open up, because it was almost like, oh, come on, you've said this, but then you've said that. So what's that about? You know, and it was from a place of curiosity. I didn't feel threatened. You know, I didn't feel as though you were making fun. I didn't feel as though you were kind of like judging the fact that I'd said that I've got my nutrition down. I think that like you evoked that was perfectly fine and almost expected of an individual who's been playing a game at a high level for a long time. And I liked that probing style around it.
So just for your benefit and for anybody listening benefit, that was a double-sided reflection where you go, you've got this and you've got this, but these two things don't match up. And in your case, it was training for a game, I need proper fuel. Second training session, I don't need at all. And it's like, I put those together, like why are the difference? Because there's a similarity that you're in both scenarios, you're doing exercise. So that's a double-sided reflection, and you kind of just give it to them to solve themselves in a non-judgmental way. That's where you felt that kind of conflict and being pushed. Jodie, you probably have to rush off. Thank you very much for your time.
No, it's not a problem. I've really thoroughly enjoyed it. I really appreciate the offer. Thank you for inviting me to, you know, take part in that role play. And like, I found it really, really useful.
Okay, cool. Cheers. Thank you very much.
All right.